Hello everyone, Bertina Amy here, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I thought I would do a Dollar Tree DIY Cancer Dragon Wreath. This project is inspired by my soon-to-be-released book called The Cancer Dragon. So in today's video, I thought I would do another Cancer ribbon wreath, but I want to do a twist on it. And I want to use this ribbon as well as this ribbon, both from Temu. Now I noticed that one is thinner than the other, but I also, as a backup, I have this one as well, and these look to be closer to the same size. And in any case, you're probably also wondering where I came up with this name or idea or concept, and it's all based on this book that I started writing and will soon be published, hopefully this year. I've been working on it for almost a year now, and I'm really excited about it. I'm glad it's nearly over because it's a lot of work and it's really hard to write about because it's a memoir. And if you're interested to learn more about this book, it's a true story based on my life. I will talk more about it at the end of this video, but I am going to go ahead and focus on this craft idea. In any case, perhaps I might have to do a redo of this idea. I think for the sake of simplicity, I might just do the candy cane concept. If I get around to doing a second version, I think I might do inside versus outside, but I only have so many of materials and available money for crafting purposes and whatnot, so I think I'm going to keep it simple, at least for today. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, like kind of just twisting and doing a diagonal effect. I mean, it's still going to be, I think it's still going to be pretty regardless. So I'm choosing lavender and dark or deep purple, I should say. These are going to be my brand colors in any case, at least two of them. So I'm going to go ahead and open this, and I'm going to just go ahead and attach them and start wrapping basically. And I'll give you a few step by step, talk about the midsection, and then speed through most of it, get back to the midsection, discuss that, and then finish it off and then embellish it on camera, if that makes sense. So here we go. A little ASMR. Oh yeah, that is definitely the shade I wanted. Okay, so then I feel like the deep purple is more transparent than the lavender, which actually, I'm not going to lie, that bums me out. However, because I am going to be folding it in half, let's see what it looks like folded. I think it's going to be fine. I'm going to make it work, because I don't feel like I have a whole lot of options anyways. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just add hot glue here, and then layer one over top the other, and try not to burn myself. I like to use these Clorox clips to kind of hold them into place. They'll still have that sort of plasticky look once they dry, and that's fine. It's just for the initial hold because I don't want to burn myself. But anyways, so I'm going to consider this to be roughly the middle, even though I don't know how much I have of the deep purple. And we are going to go ahead and fold that in half. And I really hope this looks pretty. I honestly wish that I could get like a deep version of this exactly, because I don't know if, yeah, I think it shows up on camera. This has like different shades. It's not perfectly lavender, whereas this is all one solid color. And I prefer this version over this version, and this actually feels thicker and like better quality than this does. But again, we'll make this work. Unfortunately, for my color branding, there's not a lot of options for all the different shades, and I'm really excited about creating the outside part of this project. But in any case, I am going to go ahead and remove this completely off the spool and be right back. So I'm going to just turn this a little bit this way, and I'm going to start wrapping. Let's see here. Let's start wrapping here. And I'm going to have the folds facing me, and basically this is probably going to take a minute. Okay, so I ran that through. Now I'm running this through. Okay, finally got that through. And I'm going to do, let's see here. Oh, that did not capture. Okay, I did forget a step. That's my bad. All right, here we are again. Let me try this one more time. And pull this through. Okay, I think I know what's going on. I need to wrap it. I'm a little rusty, so I gotta pull one side to the other side. I don't know if that makes sense. I gotta go in opposite directions, at least to start out, so that it actually locks in, if that makes sense. And doing this method does not require hot glue so much until you get to the end, or unless you want to really make sure it's attached. So if I do, you know what, I'm okay with how that looks, but I do want maybe like let's see how this looks. I could also cut this so that it's not ridiculously long to pull through, but I don't like the seams, so I'm trying to avoid that altogether. I would rather have excess and cut it towards the end than like do that right now. I'm not worried about how it's looking as I'm pulling it out. I could always fix it as I go because this stuff is very forgivable. But I do like the color combinations so far. Okay, so let me just get this through here. Okay. So then this is the idea for this one is doing left over right instead of my usual right over left. Let's see how this looks. Just so that the bars aren't going to be visible. Okay, so we're going to do left over right. All right, so here I am coming up to the center, and I'm going to make this be folded a little bit. I don't mind that. And I'm going to just pull it through. And then doing left over right. You can already see that design I was talking about, kind of like the candy cane. And then this is going to definitely go here. And I'm going to just pull this through. All right, and then I think I'm going to do think I'm gonna just do this like this, if that makes sense. It's gonna look a little awkward at first. And then we're gonna pull in this direction. And then I'm gonna pull through this here, just so it has something to grab onto. Okay, and then, all right, and then this needs to go around the outside bar and then through here. Doing it this method, doing this way is actually not going to require a second wreath form, which I also really like. I grabbed the extra one with the idea that I was going to do 2 different shades of color, but one on the inside, one on the outside. That's what's making it a little bit more on the complicated side. Okay, so let's see here. And then I'm going to do the center section does not need to look perfect. It just needs to look like there's at least a continuation of the fabric, the materials. Let's put it like that. And the nice thing about doing 2 different shades is you shouldn't need that many yards or feet of the ribbon. Like I believe when I did my one tone only using the Dollar Tree pink burlap ribbon, I believe it was I think I only used 1 or 2 max. I think, but don't quote me on that. You'd have to watch the video because I don't remember. Sorry about that. And then we're going to continue wrapping. All right. And then I'm going to continue the same process left over right until I reach to this part, and then I'll come back and show you how I'm going to cross over. Okay, so we're coming to the center now, and I'm just going to do the left over right and pull this through, hoping to not waste any of this lavender, but you know, this is going to be a tough call here. I think my best bet is going to be to just pull through this gap here. Okay, and then hopefully do my best to not waste materials here. So I'm going to bring this out this way. So I just went around the back, and I'm fine with the dark purple because there's so much of it. And then this can go, you know what? I think it's just going to go straight down. We don't got to do anything fancy. Straight down. And we're also nearing the end, so I think there's going to be enough of this material, and I'm only using one of them. I didn't have to use like another set, and that's even better because I don't have another set. Okay, so then let's see. Oh, you know what? It needs to go to the bottom. I did this part wrong. I hope I'm gonna make this look right. Okay, so to the bottom like so, and then pull through the gap. I know it looks really plain going straight down, but I just want to make sure I don't have any gaps. That's just not gonna look right. So I'm gonna just pull through the bottom here. Like that, and then pull through. Okay, and then keeping with the left over right so that it's consistent, or as consistent as we can make it. All right, so now we're coming to the end, and use some hot glue there, and let's get this clip. There we go. And all right, so I'm going to cut there. There. Now, this is going to be a little bit nitpicky. If you wanted to, you could see there's a gap right there. You could take excess purple ribbon like this and sneak it underneath just to cover that gap. This is totally optional though. You don't even need to do this. So I'm going to just cut that and then use a bit of hot glue on the other side. And then just kind of, I'm going to take my scissors and just press down. You could consider it done from here if you're just enjoying the two-toned look. I actually think it looks great the way it is. But I can't leave well enough alone, so we're going to keep going because, well, if I didn't keep going, then the final image will look different. So it wouldn't be a dragon wreath if I left it like this. Okay, so for some reason, my audio stopped recording by the next day when I was trying to make these spikes, but let me just go ahead and share with you what steps I took to make it. I had this fuchsia deco mesh from Dollar Tree from the previous year, I want to say it was, and this light pink unopened one I actually bought before Easter, so the color was perfect. I was going for fuchsia and light pink for the scales, and I go ahead and measure them out to about 6 inches in length, cutting them down around that point so that way it's basically a square. And I go ahead and use up the rest of the fuchsia material because I'd use some of it for the breast cancer awareness wreath that I made before. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut these down, and then I'm going to show one on camera where I take the edges, fold it in half to make a triangle, and then fold it in half 2 more times to create my spikes on the spine of the dragon. And these Dollar Tree materials, at least the fuchsia one, it frays so bad. So it's near impossible to get it perfect, especially with the fact that I refuse to take a wood burning tool to it because I don't want to deal with the fumes that would come out of heating the materials up, seeing as that it's probably made of plastic. So I'm opting against that. You can feel free to do that if you have a ventilated area. I am recording inside my home though and have a toddler. And since I beat cancer, I really don't want to be inhaling these things. So I'm going to go without and just keep it all natural. But feel free to do whatever you feel you'd like to do for your project if you decide to create this. Now the bottom edge that I'm holding, I do need to keep that tied together in some way, shape, or form. So you can choose to use rubber bands, zip ties, or even pipe cleaners. However, I decided to opt for rubber bands, hair ties, old ones that I had lying around, the tiny ones, because I have a ton of them. So I may as well go ahead and use those up since I don't typically do hair and my daughter doesn't really let me or keep things in her hair as of right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and use those to keep them at the tied, cinched to the bottom or whatever, if that makes sense. And just stick them in between the ribbon wrapping, if that makes sense. I ended up making about 20 of these and ended up only needing to use 15 because the thing is that I don't want to just use the fuchsia. I want to use the light pink as well. And so I'm placing fuchsia in between, like say the lavender and the deep purple folds. However, I'm skipping every other section because I'm putting the light pink versions in between, but like sort of behind because they kind of flare out. I'm putting them behind more as like an accent, but also two-toned so that way it creates like sort of dimension that way. And I go ahead and attach it all the way around on the outside edges of the entire wreath form to give it that sort of spike look. However, let me know if you think it looks like spikes or if it reminds you more of flames. I wasn't intending on making it look like flames, it's just that's the way it's turning out based on the quality of materials that I have. And this midsection that I just touched a few times, I actually decided to add the fuchsia in the middle there after all. I wasn't sure if I was going to need it because I wasn't sure where I was going to place the wings as it was. So I wasn't sure if it made sense to include it, but I did have plenty of materials for skipping every other for what I had. And here's a quick view of the entire piece since I can't fit it all in camera. So here you go. So next I decided to go ahead and tackle the mask of the dragon. And I was really hoping to showcase the ASMR from pulling it out of the bag, but we're going to have to skip that, and it's already a long video anyways. But I will say I had some hesitation about using this specific piece because it didn't seem to match, at least to me, as well as the wings did with the tail. Because there's not as much purple within the face. I don't think it's as clear on camera because it looks like you could see some of the purple, but it's so light compared to what's on the tail and the wings. So that was my disappointment upon receiving this. I did buy a backup one just in case, but the backup one had way too much white in it. So I opted just to use what it came with because I didn't want to have mismatching pieces. And here is a quick glimpse of that other mask that I could have used just for reference. I did think about going ahead and painting one of these just to better match the whole thing, but then I was afraid of getting the exact paint colors and things like that, and then I would have had to paint every piece, and I thought, you know what, forget it, I'm just going to go with it the way it is and just kind of go from there, because I think my idea of trying to fix it would have been like using tissue paper to color it with rather than actual paints, because this is made of rubber and I wasn't sure how well paint would stick to it, but I opted against all of that because I really wanted to get this project done so that I could have the video ready in time. Also, the newer version I just pulled out is a little bit more flimsier in material, so I felt that I should just stick with what it came with. So next I decided to go ahead and attach the tail to the piece, and I decided to attach it to the right tail of the ribbon wreath. The tail has more of a clip so that it could be clipped onto the back of your pants or something like that, and that's only the area where I could actually go ahead and tie a pipe cleaner to it, and I opted for a lavender pipe cleaner. However, the issue I had was that I couldn't get the other side down, and I tried poking a hole as instructed by different YouTubers. However, I don't have sharp enough materials, and you have to get a really large hole because mine only, like my X-Acto knife would only make a slit rather than an actual hole, and it was impossible to squeeze through. So I opted against that and decided to go with what I could do and decided to just tie the pipe cleaner to the side of the clip and then tie both ends of the pipe cleaner into the wreath, if that makes sense. And of course, twist it to keep it in place. Next, I decided to tackle the mask itself, and I brought some super glue just in case I need a more permanent hold. However, it turns out that hot glue is just fine. And I also picked up this sheet of black felt from Michaels. I cut out some small rectangles and just hot glued them over the nostrils and the back of the mask. So I bought this green floral block from the Dollar Tree because I wanted to use it to wrap the mask around so that it looked more realistic and three-dimensional. I figured the green part wouldn't be seen anyways based on the fact that the eyes would be covered and that it would be attached from the back end onto the actual wreath. So next I had to tackle the eyes. And the other YouTubers had used black felt for the eyes as well. And I honestly thought that maybe white felt would have been better, but I opted to just follow along and do the same thing. So I go ahead and cut out larger rectangles or squares to at least cover the entire surface of the eye for the back end of the mask. And I go ahead and hot glue the eyes I chose as dragon eyes from Michaels as well into the center of the piece of felt that I cut out. And I only put a little dab of hot glue at the center of the eyeball because I wanted to be able to see if I could manage to squeeze the edges of these circle eyes into the material for the eye sockets so that way it looks more realistic and seamless. I also tried to make sure that as I tucked it in the materials for the eye sockets that it was around or behind the seams so that it would actually hold well. But I did have to finagle the eyes because the second eye, of course, did not come out looking quite right, so I had to figure it out off camera until I had exactly the layout that I wanted. Okay, so to attach the mask to the floral block, it took some trial and error, and I found that the easiest and best way is to use the straps and wrap it around the block twice, and that way it actually holds the shape and it actually stays in place as well. I don't even mind if it gets a little indented at the back of the floral block. I just wanted it to stay put. Unfortunately, hot glue just won't do it quite right, not even attaching it from the mask to the block or to attach the straps to the block. But the bonus thing about this is that you then have a way to attach the mask directly to the wreath by sliding it on using the straps. And here you can see my attempts to use hot glue and the residue that was left behind. Which of these is your favorite? A, without the wings or the mini dragon, B, with the wings behind and the mini dragon on top, or C, with the wings on top and a mini dragon on top? I'm really struggling to decide. And here's the final result. Let me know what you think in the comments below. This is by far the largest wreath I've ever created and the biggest project and the most time consuming, but it is so worth it. These spikes aren't glued down yet, so I noticed one of the fuchsia ones is tilted to the left, and I adjust that off camera after the fact. But maybe I just need a few days to kind of let it sit. Okay, so here's the cover so far for my upcoming book. The basic gist of it is, I became diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, got pregnant during fertility treatments, refused to abort, despite my doctor's warnings that I'd die at birthing my child. For book updates or to support me, scan the code or click the link below. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.